Alcoholism. Let's talk about alcoholism. We try to keep this relatively short. For the most part, we know what it is. We know what it is. Overindulgence in liquor, whether it be wine, hard liquor, or beer. Alcoholism is one of those things that they say it really can't be cured. You can't cure alcoholism. They say that there's no cure for it. This is partially true. Partially. There's a cure for everything. But as far as alcoholism, there's no traditional medical cure as far as I know. As far as I know, they still say it's incurable. And they don't classify it under an addiction like everything else, like whether it be nicotine or caffeine or sugar. No. Or even sex addiction. This is not even categorized under that. They make this its own category. They put this in the category of disease. And we do know that any disease starts off as a dis-ease first. First is a dis-ease, then it becomes a disease. If it's bodily, continued dis-ease in one of your organs can turn into disease if untreated. Alcoholism is so difficult to treat because it's an inside job. Curing alcoholism is an inside job. And let's take off all the judgy hats too. I'm not saying that a person who drinks every day is an alcoholic, because we have to consider the volume and the level of impairment that takes place. And we're not talking about going to a reception, wedding reception or something like that, or a little party or something like that, and you have a few and you feeling nice. You're feeling nice, not belligerent, but you're feeling nice. You're feeling tipsy. You out of your shell. You talking. You laughing. You joking. Whereas you might have been tightened in the corner. They call it a social lubricant, right? That's also the other reason why a lot of clubs will water that stuff down. They'll water your drinks down because, for one, yeah, they like, they being cheap, man. They overselling it. Yeah, that's one part. But the other part is an accountability thing too. They don't want to be liable of giving you everything straight. Could you imagine if all the bottles were straight and you just drinking it straight? These folks ain't ordering a whole bunch of waters, so they got to water that stuff down for you. They got to water that stuff down because you already know what it is. You heard the songs. Bottle after bottle after bottle is what they say for club talk, right? For club talk, bottle after bottle. But it gets real when you're an early drinker versus a late drinker. You don't have to be an alcoholic to take a nightcap at 11:30 at night, to take a sip of wine, a swig of wine, have half a glass of wine after a day's work, after a good meal. That's not considered alcoholism. But if you're like helping the man lift up the gate to open up the package store every day, then you might be into the alcoholism. And let's talk about the ism of alcohol so we can address this properly, because it's one thing to say, oh, you shouldn't be drinking and all of that. But then there's another thing entirely to actually address what is at the root of the alcoholic energy. And when I say alcoholic, I'm not talking about those that are affected by alcoholism. I mean, what is the energy of alcohol? What is the energy of alcohol? Well, we'd have to use a King James Bible, where they have in a certain passage that wine is for mockers. So you got mockery, merrymaking, very lighthearted and loose. This is categorized in spirits. Whenever you pull up to the package store and you see it says liquor, wine, and spirits, or liquor and spirits, the spirits, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the spirits. One of them is mockery, merrymaking, right? And another is drowsiness. That's another spirit right there. You ever had to take it in early because you had too much to drink? What was it? Lights out. You had to lay it down. Best case scenario. Another one is war. You ever how about that one? Warfare. You don't hear about this one too much. But that's like way back. And the Colosseum times. They would have like a wineskin or some kind of drink as part of their equipment on the battlefield, help them not to feel pain. Gave them what you call liquid courage. Because not everybody in war really want to deal with that bloodshed. You know, who trying to take a life when it ain't personal? That's the ugly side of war too. It is, how personal is it really for the soldiers? They may not, this ain't 9/11. They don't know when the beef started. A lot of them are just, I've heard stories of soldiers from each branch talking about, we don't even know why we was over there. So liquid courage for something that you probably should be afraid of, but it'll give you the bravery to try anyway. You've seen it all the time. Person, they feel like they drunk, they had enough to drink, where they strong enough to knock out King Kong. When their reflexes is delayed by about 85%. They feel like they can knock out a young Mike Tyson because they have so much to drink. Liquid courage turning into liquid rashness. This is one of the spirits. It's combative. It's a war energy, particularly with the hard liquor. One thing that I found that alcohol, the alcohol essence is not, though, and this is gonna be probably a little controversial because we know that things are used in different ways and there's street jargon that would suggest otherwise, but alcohol is really not, it's not intended for sex. It's not to say that it should not be, and used with consenting responsible adults before intercourse or before, physical things. But in and of itself, the sensations that alcohol causes is not one of sex, of impairment, delayed reflexes, and numbness of the body. This is the physicality of it. And if you had too much nausea and a beaming migraine, if you haven't had enough water. And because a lot of these drinks are very sugared up. I mean, look, yeah, go ahead and get you a half pint of Henny. Get a pint of Henny if you want. Man, look, it's like a kilo of sugar in that, yo. Like a whole brick. Like, what is that, yo? How much that go for? 25,000 a yitty? No, that ain't coke. That ain't dope. That ain't fat. That's sugar. They ain't going into one pint. That's why a lot of men be ending up later on with gout. And they don't drink nothing but yak. No exercise to go with it. No improving of the diet. Not drinking enough water, because you understand, if you're going to drink, especially hard liquor, your intake for water is going to double. It's going to have to double. So if you're a man weighing a certain weight at a certain height, let's say you're like my size, 6 feet, 170 something pounds. So that means I need to drink somewhere between like 85 and maybe 100 ounces of water a day. But if I'm drinking, if I'm still in my Grey Goose years, that ain't gonna be enough. And a lot of times it wasn't either. I ain't have to do it too many times, but I feel like it was more than enough for me. More than enough for me. So that's one of the another one of the spirits. Another one though that I want to talk about that is real deep. Depression and amnesia, situational amnesia. Yep. There's a part of the scripture that says that's how you are to use it. You're supposed to use it, not supposed to, but it said, leave wine and strong drink for those who are perishing. And for those who are in misery that they cannot endure, for the purpose that they forget the condition that they're in. But then they back it up by saying, be a voice for the voiceless. So they don't even leave you there. They don't even leave you there. But they tell you though that for a lot of people that you might be judging, that's sleeping under a bridge somewhere, according to the Most High, they're not under the same section of judgments that you might be trying to place them under. You placing it under a person who might have a home, they might have kids, they might have a spouse, they might have a job, and there's people who have none of those things but access to alcohol. What do you do for them? What do you do for somebody that has no insulation in the winter? The shelters is closed. They got to sleep outside in December, and it's 25 degrees all night with a strong breeze. What they gonna do? Because what they say, drinks be warming the body up. People be sweating and all of this. All right, so what you want that person to do if they had no other options? Should they die of frost in the streets, or should they have that drink and survive until the shelter opens up in the morning? We're talking about real life conundrums with no judgments attached, like no judging, but we are talking about making judgment calls. So there's allowances made, like, yo, this person's been going through it. Yo, this person just lost their whole family. Please give them a drink if they asking for one. That's not the religious thing to do, quote unquote, but is it the righteous thing to do? More than likely, yes. So again, that's just a little bit about alcoholism. And if you want to treat these things mentally, we'll talk about that in the next video. Super T Sigma. Peace.